All right, how's it going, everybody? So this is going to be the reboot of the Conscious Bodybuilding podcast. Today, I have Jordan Hutchinson on, the winner of the 2021 Mr. USA. I figured he would be a great fit for the reboot of the podcast. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Basically, I kind of wanted to, you've been kind of flying under the radar, I think, and I just wanted you to kind of introduce yourself and kind of where, like, how you started bodybuilding. How did you even find bodybuilding?
Man, it's been about 8 years since I even started training in the gym at all. So I used to be such a skinny guy, like a $160 towards the end of high school. At 17, I started lifting, but prior to that, I absolutely hated weight training or anything to do with weight training. I just was tired of being skinny. And I played football one season. I was always a basketball player, but I just kind of got in the gym with the football team after that season because I just got beat up, man, like a little guy on the football field, and I knew I needed to beef up. I didn't end up playing football ever again because once I got in the gym, I responded so fast and I just fell in love with training right off the bat, and it just skyrocketed from there. It's been a long process for me, and I think that's why I've flown under the radar, as I haven't competed much at all. I've been in love with the process of growing and training, and the hardcore side of the gym has always been my thing. So I love improvement and I love packing on size because I was always that little guy. So that's kind of what got me into it in the first place, was just being in the gym and finally seeing muscle on my frame and just pushing from there. And then people started suggesting I compete, and it started kind of started there.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, like, what point were you like, oh, I'm considering stepping on stage?
So, gosh, I don't even remember what year it was. It was 2021. I think it was 2015 or 2016. I was 19. So I started working out when I was 17. I'm 25 now. So I'd always trained for like vertical jump training for basketball, just jump rope, agility training. I'd done that kind of stuff since I was like 12. So it was always, I guess I've always trained. I just hated weight training because I was always so weak.
Yeah.
So I started when I was 17. I beefed up so fast. I packed on like 30 pounds in a matter of months, just from like eating garbage and training, the beginner gains. And then I was working out at a YMCA and working there also. And I had a bunch of people there just be like, you respond so well. You've got a frame, you've got a physique, you need to do a show. And so I just was like, whatever, I'll try this thing out. So I jumped into this no-name show, INBF or whatever the federation was, and in South Carolina, and coached myself into my first show. No idea what I was doing.
Oh, wow.
Carb cycled, if you want to call it that. It was just 4 days of like 0 to 50 grams of carbs, and then an entire cheat day of eat anything in sight. It was just a horrible approach.
Yeah.
But I ended up doing okay for my first show. I didn't look too bad. Obviously not in great shape. I didn't know what I was doing, but as soon as I stepped on that stage, I was like, oh my gosh, I've caught the bug. But I've got a lot of improvement to do. So It was kind of after that, I believe it was 2015. And I didn't compete again until 2017 was my first NPC show.
So you've competed not a lot, right? How many shows have you done?
I've literally done 3 NPC shows, including the qualifier that I did before USA's. So I've hardly competed at all. I just take the adequate amount of time. I've always known what my goals were. As soon as I caught the bug for bodybuilding, like, people thought I was crazy in 2015. I was like, I want to do this like at the professional level one day. I'm going to make it there.
Right.
But I knew if I do too many shows in that time period, I'm not growing if I'm in prep.
Absolutely.
And I knew the thing that I needed was size always. So, a lot of people aren't motivated enough to take that time off. And I've always taken that time off. So that's why I've kind of flown under the radar, because I don't feel the need to step on stage or have abs year round.
Yeah.
I'm fine with people saying I look like a power lifter for 2
Right.
years straight, because I know when it comes time, I can suffer for conditioning,
Right.
but put on the size and the time that I need. So
Yeah. 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 Putting on the mass takes a lot of time.
it
And
does.
when, like you said, when you do a cut, I mean, that can be upwards of 6 months where you're not putting on muscle, right?
Right.
Because
Exactly.
you gotta get
All it
out
is
of that.
routine.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a really smart approach. That's actually a very similar way to the way I look at it, right? You have this end goal in mind, right? And you don't really waste a whole lot of time,
Right.
jumping into a bunch of shows. How do you feel? Like, it's funny because a lot of people that I've had conversations with about like that approach, they always think that like, oh, you gotta get seen, you gotta be at all the shows.
Right.
I mean, in your case, that's not really how it occurred. Like you jumped in and you were the best on that day, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it was weird because I, after, gosh, I haven't competed since 2018. And I
Yeah.
won my class in the light heavies in 2018. I was 196. And, I had planned on competing in 2020. I didn't want to take that much time off, but with COVID and everything, it
Yep.
just, I wasn't going to stay peeled for months and have shows get canceled and then have to wait for the next show. So that's why it took me so long to compete again. But I think it worked in my favor.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what to expect going into that show,
Right.
which I think helped drive me, because I was going in here thinking these guys are freaks. I've got to bring it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that blew my mind. You're DMing me before and you're like, man, I was just hoping for a top 5.
yeah, I didn't know what, you see people on Instagram and
Yeah.
you're like, some pictures, these guys look like absolute freak shows.
Yeah.
And they are. And I have
Right.
major respect for all of those guys. It was a very competitive class. But I guess because I'm in a small town, there's not many bodybuilders here, no guys at a high level at all.
Yeah.
We've all any bodybuilders around here just competed at a regional level. So,
Yeah.
you hear it from people around town, like, oh my gosh, you're going to win. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
Yeah.
If you were at like that level, maybe I sometimes sell myself short, which I think has helped drive me.
Right.
But no, I didn't expect that, which maybe helped me. But dude, it was awesome going in there and actually feeling like, yeah, man, I was made to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you think that since you're in kind of like this isolated area, there's not a lot of bodybuilders, do you find yourself having to rely on like your self-belief? I mean, because you just don't have, I mean, you do have some positive reinforcement, but it's not like, it's not like you're seeing everybody every day or getting that comparison every day, right?
It was hard, man, because there were so many days where when you have a goal closer to where you're at, and 2018 is like, I had no goal in sight. I was done with that show. I had no idea when the next show was. I had no set goal. It was like, I just need to get on stage whenever I'm ready. So it is kind of harder to stay motivated to train really, really, really hard. You have to have that discipline mentally to keep doing the same thing every day, to check the boxes, to keep laying the bricks, because it's really easy to just be like, well, I may not be on stage for another year or two. I can eat this, or I can slack off on legs. I don't have to kill myself today. So it definitely took a lot of self-discipline.
Right. It's funny that you say that. I don't want to make this too much about myself, but I literally sent an email to my coach like a couple hours ago, and I was like, hey, look, we need to pick a show, because I need that extra, like, in the back of my mind, hey, I'm going to be stepping on stage. I need to take this set to where it needs to go. I need to not, as much as like I can be disciplined. It's just that little, you could set the date, how many weeks out you are, what it takes, what it's going to take to get there. So I completely agree with that. That helps a lot.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So you work a normal job, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I do.
What was that?
For now, I've been, I've kind of juggled on some online coaching time for what I have time for. My job is really involved, but as of right now, I'm still working 5 days a week.
How is that hustle? Like, I've found that managing bodybuilding and a normal job that's not involved in bodybuilding, it can be difficult at times. How is it for you, right?
It's honestly really, really difficult. So I work 100% commission job.
Oh, wow.
So I work with a company that's like, it's an authorized retailer of Verizon, and we manage business accounts. And I have
Okay.
like businesses and clientele that I work with that, I mean, a lot of them call me around the clock. Like I'll be at the gym and I'll have calls and I have to call them all after the gym.
Yeah.
Um, whether it's setting up appointments or dealing with issues that business may have or that customer or whatever. So it's a hustle. It's a very good job for me. When I got this job back, it was after my last show, it was early 2019. It changed bodybuilding for me because we all know bodybuilding is a very expensive sport.
Yeah.
And so it enabled so much for me, but it also, I'm working two really involved jobs,
Right.
bodybuilding and this commission job. I mean, there's no paid time off. And if you're not working, selling, you're not making any money. It's 100% commission. So
Yeah.
that also gets hard in prep because we all know how involved you have to be with being on time with your meals. And if I slack off on work, then I'm not making the same checks,
Yeah.
and that affects my bodybuilding in turn. So I have to be just as disciplined in that as I am in bodybuilding too. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough, man. And it's sometimes hard to portray that to, I found, like, friends and family, like
yeah,
how bodybuilding is a job in itself, right? And I even get on myself sometimes, right? I'm like, I'll be doing another job and I get kind of hard on myself, right? Like, oh yeah, like, but then I forget like how many hours I actually spend eating every day, how many hours I spend training, how many hours I spend doing anything regarding bodybuilding, and how much energy that takes. And so you just look at like how many hours. Obviously it doesn't feel like work, right? It can in prep, but you look at how many hours you actually work at your job where you make your money, right? And you're not making money, especially as an amateur. And it's like,
exactly, all free.
80 hours a week,
Those questions, I'm sure you've had them from family and friends. Now, is there any prize money you made at this show?
Yeah.
Of course, after I won this show, they're like, you got to have had prize money this time.
Yeah.
Everybody always asks that. And I'm like, man, if there was no reward at all, I'd still want to do this. Like,
Absolutely.
it's just a passion, which some people aren't going to understand that.
Right.
But yeah, when you're an amateur, you're paying into it. You're investing into it. The shows aren't cheap. Nothing about it's cheap. You're making a sacrifice financially too.
Right. But you said it right there, right? It's an investment.
Right.
Whether that is for you to be able to provide more value to your clients, for you to eventually compete as a professional and potentially get endorsements, right? It is an investment, and there is a return on that investment, whether you see it or not. And then there's the other side of that where it is truly your passion, right? And you you did things that it took because you love this so much, right? You took an extended off season. You did all these things that were enabled you to be successful because you have a love for the process, right? And I think that's really important, and I think that message shouldn't get lost, especially because I know I do have younger listeners that listen to this, right? And like you mentioned before, like you didn't compete, right? You didn't need that gratification, right? You actually just had a goal in mind, and you had something that you wanted to achieve. And I think a lot of people need to learn to love the actual process of getting there versus looking at the outcome, right? You look at the outcome, you get burnt out really fast. You'll look at this very large goal. If you were to say, hey, I want to be an IFBB pro, and every day you just thought about, obviously you think about it, but like the goal is an IFBB pro, and you haven't broken it down, and you haven't actually loved the day to day, it's going to be very difficult. That's going to seem so monumental.
You're on point with that, man. I literally tell people that every day because, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media now, because everybody sees somebody compete and they're like, gosh, he looks so good, I want to look like that. Or, oh man, he's maybe getting all this attention and whatever else. And that's not what we do it for. Most people don't do it for that. The most successful bodybuilders don't do it for the attention, for the Instagram, for whatever. That's a part of it now because of the way marketing is in sport. But like my mentality is more like, the 90s bodybuilders, Dorian Yates in the trenches kind of thing. I love that. But nobody's like that anymore. because they just, like you said, I tell people this all the time. It's not just about the end goal. If it's only about the end goal, it's not worth it, because you spend so much time bodybuilding. It
Yeah.
takes so much time, so much out of you. If you do not enjoy the journey and the process and love the day to day, love the regiment, love pushing yourself to be disciplined, then you got to check yourself and really think about whether or not this is worth it for you. Because
Yeah.
if you don't enjoy the journey, you've wasted a lot of days in your life just thinking about this end goal that you wish that you could have, but that maybe you wouldn't enjoy the process at all of getting there. So it's kind of a waste of time at
Yeah.
that point, because you probably don't have the drive to do it if you don't enjoy the process.
Right. 100%. And I mean, I don't know if you can speak to this now, but eventually that feeling of winning will fade, right? And
Absolutely.
you're gonna have to start to it's gonna become work again, right? I mean, obviously you enjoy it, but like you're not gonna
There'll
have
be
that
those
high
hard
of,
days.
yeah, absolutely. Especially get back into another prep. It's not like you have that feeling forever. People think
Right.
once I become an IFBB pro, my life changes. It's the work stops. It's just easier from there because I'm an IFBB pro. And it's like, no, man. I mean, you just became a small fish in a big pond, right? You
Exactly.
entered
I
into
keep telling
another.
people that I just kind of got drafted basically.
Yeah,
And now I'm back at the bottom of the
you
totem
gotta
pole. I got to look at
yeah,
these guys that are at the top. There's a new level of competition. That's
right.
a whole different world.
Yeah, and if you just kept chasing, like, okay, now I'm gonna win the Arnold, and you just kept chasing that, you probably would never have that feeling of satisfaction, or it'd be very
Right.
fleeting.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you got to love the process, man.
100%. Cool. I'm glad we touched on that. I just wanted to go over kind of like, um, what did your nutrition? It doesn't have to be really thorough, but like
Yeah.
looking at the off season, like this macro plan, what did your nutrition look like going into the off season, peak off season, and then kind of towards the show? I know you did a long prep. Maybe talk about like the timeline, why you did such a long prep as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, off season, coming out of the 2018 show, I was with a coach that was he held me back a lot. Like, the reverse diet out of that show was so slow. He was keeping me so tight. I was like, dude, I've got to add some calories in and grow.
Yeah.
I switched up with him. I actually worked with Matt Jansen for a few months.
Okay.
Now, Matt had me eating a truckload of food, like 7 meals a day, 450 grams of protein. When I'm with a coach, I don't really count the macros. I go with the coach and I trust him for a reason. I was with Matt Jansen for a while. We were eating a truckload of food. And honestly, I added a lot of body fat. And,
Okay.
I really liked Matt. And I saw him at the show this last weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's an awesome guy. But I didn't feel as much like maybe at that time he didn't possibly see as much potential in me. I don't know. It just didn't seem as involved. So I was wanting someone a little bit more involved that maybe wanted to invest a little more time in me. And so I started looking for a coach, and I really wanted Chris Tuttle. So at the time he didn't have much room or availability, but I talked him into it. He took me on because we are a lot alike and we work very well together. We think a lot alike. But when I'm with a coach, honestly, I rarely will count what the macros are, because I get with the coach and I trust them to do what
Yeah.
I know they know what they're doing, and I like to take my mind out of it. Sometimes I think it's fun just to see where my calories get in the off season, because
Yeah.
I have to eat to grow. Like,
Right.
with Chris, I mean, I easily ate 6,000 to 7,000 calories, clean calories a day.
Yeah.
Possibly more. But I have to eat really high in the off season. But what was awesome was this prep, I never went that low, even though I felt really low because I got pretty peeled.
Yeah.
We never went that low with carbs or overall calories, to be honest with you. But relatively to my off season, we pushed me way high.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, with a 2.5 year off season, you're going to get pretty fluffy because there's no cut in between. There's no time to pull yourself down to a really low body fat percentage. So you're super insulin sensitive. So maybe we did a couple mini cuts in the meantime.
Smart.
just for insulin sensitivity. That's all, but not
Yep.
really to make a lot of progress with fat loss.
Yeah.
So I was pretty fluffy, man. I haven't posted a transformation yet on my Instagram, but I'm going to soon because
Yeah. I want to
it's
see that.
pretty wild. I got up to 278
Oh, okay.
and I'm just under 5'10". So
Yeah.
I was pretty stout. You know, I had plenty of comments about, dude, you don't look like a bodybuilder. You look like a power lifter.
Yeah.
Uh, that got old, but
Yeah.
that's another part of, like, you just have to not care about what you look like in the off season. You just have to kind of push through mentally.
Yep.
So, you know, off season was really long. It felt like forever. I was just, like I said, in the trenches, just going at it. And there was a point where Chris and I mean, my weight was sticking. I was eating like I said, 6 or 7,000 clean calories. My carbs were probably at 800 or so. And he was like, all right, we're going to have to do like 3 cheat meals a week. And that was something I wasn't used to because I'm very regimented, extremely.
Yeah.
I mean, most of my off season, I would have 1 cheat meal a week. I remember I got so just dialed in and was eating so much food that I knew 1 cheat meal would throw off my digestion. So there was a while when I was with Jansen, in my off season, I didn't have a cheat meal for like 3 months. Just I chose not to because I
Right.
knew I couldn't get my other 6 meals in. If I had a cheat meal in there, it was going to throw my digestion off. So
Right.
that's just kind of how my mindset is. I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I'm not a genetic freak. So, you know, it was a solid off season. I mean, I put on about 30 pounds of stage weight.
Yeah. That's nuts
I
when you
was
think about it.
106 in 2018, September 2018. And then for USA's, I sucked down to 223 for
Right.
weigh-ins.
For heavyweight.
Yeah, just barely. I mean, I was riding 231 and 232 for
Yeah.
weeks with.
I saw you were like 226, 6 days out or something like that.
So I mean, it was like, and I had, you know, my glutes were in for a long time, and I still couldn't pull that weight down.
Yeah.
Like, what he's doing. So
Right. Right.
mid-weight, and then probably by the time I was on stage, it's like 227, 228.
Nice. So you went from 275 to essentially 223 in that 26-week prep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was 26 weeks total prep, 26 weeks total.
Got it.
It started in early January 2020, and then
it was like 2 pounds a week.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
There were some weeks that were a lot more and some weeks that were more stagnant, but
yeah, definitely. That's not super aggressive when you think about someone who's actually like a really large body weight, right?
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. That's not super aggressive when you think of someone who's like that high of a body weight, right? It's like a 1% rate of loss per week. So that's not nothing too crazy.
Right. Yeah. So that was one of the things was we just decided to take it slow because I had
it's really smart.
of body fat that was accumulated over a long period of time. So
Right.
I knew I would need to have the adequate time to pull it off and not lose too much muscle tissue.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, it's interesting what you say about the cheat meals. You get to a point in the off season where you become so resistant to weight gain,
right,
that it just takes that, right? Unfortunately, and I'll find that like now out of a post diet period, I'll start snacking around, and my weight just goes up like just like nothing. But when I because I have that behavior of thinking like the off season, like, oh yeah, it's like you know, once you get to that point and you're there for a while, you're like, oh yeah, like this isn't going to affect you. And I have to like actually make a shift in my mentality. Like, okay, like
right.
that's not productive right now.
Exactly. It's all about being as productive as possible.
Right.
Because there are other guys out there that are willing to do absolutely whatever it takes. So
100%.
If it helps me 1%, you know, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And I think, and that's something that I try to like portray to people is like, okay, like I, you know, with some of my general population clients, you know, just want normal like fat loss and stuff, you know, maybe I can have some flexibility in there and have some normal foods. But speaking with like you or myself, right, you're at 7,000 calories and you eat something that, you know, maybe is in the plan, but like it impedes your digestion, right? You could mess up your goal for the next couple of days. That could throw you off track.
Oh yeah.
And
at that level, the tiniest details matter.
is that trade-off worth it, right? You do that, is that 3 days, you know, it could be a placing, you know, and
Oh,
those
dude, yeah,
things, I think about those things. All right,
absolutely.
well, I'll try not to keep you too much longer.
No, you're good, man. I've got plenty of time, really,
Oh,
honestly.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. Yeah, so as far as like you in the moment of like, or in the day of competing, like when did it occur to you that you potentially were going to win your class and then win the overall? Like where does that like shift of like, hey, I might actually win this?
Well, so it's funny because, you know, after the fact, after the show, Chris told me, my coach, Chris Tuttle, he told me, he's like, I mean, I pretty much knew how good you were. I just didn't want to tell you.
Yeah,
He's like,
I
I
want to
didn't want you
inflate
to
you.
have the expectation. I wanted you working your tail off. So,
Yeah,
which I appreciate that about him. Now, when I got there, there were guys that had seen me on like Bodybuilders Without Borders page or whatever page was posting the updates to the guys at USA's, which I had been watching and trying to stay off of because I was like getting in my head thinking about all these other guys that are showing up. But you know, I'd have guys come up to me and be like, dude, you look nuts. Like you're definitely top five. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude?
yeah.
Like, what do you see these guys out here? And it's just I didn't know how I would stack up until I saw a video of myself next to everybody, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know I looked like that next to those guys on stage. So
Yeah,
going into it, I had a lot of guys at the show or at tanning or whatever come up to me and like, oh dude, you're taking a heavyweight class, or oh man, you're probably top three, or you're probably top five, or whatever. And I appreciated that. And it meant so much more to me because like I said, I don't live in a bodybuilding town. So I don't
right.
have people that really have an eye for it telling me whether or not I have a shot. I just
Yeah,
have people maybe on Instagram, and I was like, well, you've just seen pictures. It's not like being in person. So when I get there and I hear that, part of me was like, don't get my hopes up, man. Like, don't tell me this,
yeah,
and then I'm going to get crushed. So Friday prejudging happened, and I was just blown away, man, because they had me center call outs with beside Eric Wood. He's an awesome competitor, has an awesome physique.
yeah,
Respect him a lot. And it was the greatest feeling because I was finally in front of Steve Weinberger and all these other judges that, of course, I've seen judge all the biggest shows, biggest pro shows. And it was like the best validation I've ever had in the sport. Just to be center call outs in such a stacked heavyweight class, I knew I was like, I literally have a shot at this. Like, it's me or Eric for the win of this heavyweight class. Like, I could actually get my pro card Saturday night,
yeah,
and it just absolutely blew me away right off the bat. So, and then like I said, I saw the videos and I was like, okay, I didn't know I looked like that next to these guys.
yeah.
So again, I think it helped drive me, but that's why I guess I flew under the radar. Is I've not been showing on stage. I've just been working my butt
Yeah.
off trying to get to that point.
Yeah,
So,
that must be an amazing feeling because you're there and you're like, man, all of this work, all this time I took off, it's
yeah.
all worth it, right? Like it.
Oh man, it is the best feeling of just like, because it's so much, you know how much sacrifice it is because you do
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And it's an overwhelming, it is an emotional feeling, it's an accomplished feeling, and it does finally feel worth it. It's like, man,
Oh, yeah,
all those hours, all those hard workouts, all those days where your legs feel like 1,000 pounds because you're depleted, and
yeah,
you know your glutes are shredded and it hurts to sit down, and like all you think about all those things when you're on stage and you're finally to that point, and it does, yeah, it makes it all worth it.
oh, trust me, man. I was watching because I was there. I was watching the overall,
Mhm.
and my heart was racing. Then I was just like, holy shit, like,
Yeah.
and then I had this will transition to my next question, but your wife was next to me and she was screaming. She's like,
So
Jordan,
was
Jordan.
she?
She was right next to me, like
She's
literally
here.
standing. Yeah, she was
Oh, I
sitting
love it.
reversed.
And she was
Yeah,
live in the video, and everybody was loving her reactions.
yeah,
That
definitely,
made
man.
me so
It,
happy,
it,
man.
it
She's so
contributed to like,
supportive.
no, definitely. And I was gonna ask kind of how much has she contributed to your success?
So much. I tell every, like, you know, I would never say that I wouldn't be as on point as I am, because I never am less than 100%. I don't not check boxes. However, everybody knows in the sport your mentality, your peace of mind, how stress-free you are, that makes a massive change in how your physique looks. So this prep, oh my gosh, she helped me so much. And it's the first time I haven't prepped alone, been a lone wolf, stuck in my room, stuck in my house, just by myself. She was there with me the whole time. We're both pretty much homebodies. So she does the same thing. She lives the same lifestyle. She eats 6 meals a day. I help her do her diet. And so we kind of do this thing together. We do the same thing. We go to the gym at the same time when we can. And her support has been absolutely incredible. And I have to say, there's no way I would have the same mentality, the same peace of mind, and the same ease through prep if I didn't have her. I don't think I would be able to have as smooth of a prep at all. She's been overwhelmingly helpful.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, and for myself, I don't know if this is your way too, like you're very, you know, like detail oriented, and you always check your boxes. But I think that having someone there to kind of, I don't know, in my mind, like someone who checks me, right? Like I'll be like, you know, just not in a good place mentally. And my girlfriend will check me, and I, you know, I'll run things by her, and she'll be able to like reassure me when I'm, you know, it's especially in prep, it's just kind of like this wave, right? You'll be like really like, oh, I think I got it today, and the next day you're like, man, I don't know if it's worth it to do this. Like you kind of second guessing everything. And I can speak from my experience that it's such a, you know, having that support system is huge.
It's major, man, because it's one in a million too, because she has the ability to understand, because she's also done it herself.
Yeah, that's very unique.
She hasn't stepped on stage, but she lives the same lifestyle. She might as well. So, but I mean, you know, it's when you're bodybuilding, it's such a mental thing, and I don't need anybody to keep me accountable. I don't need my coach to keep me accountable. So if you're a good bodybuilder, you don't need anybody for accountability, but we all are mentally affected. So, and we're all OCD, and we all have issues with, oh my gosh, I need to be better. I need to be better, and have this weight on our shoulders. So if you have a good support system, like my wife, it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders for someone to be there as encouragement and remind you who you are, remind you how you are putting in the work. You're the best you've ever been. You know, you're doing the right thing. Stop overthinking. Just definitely keeping your mind on the right track, because it's so easy to get lost in overthinking and stressing. And and you have your bad days, and you have your days where they have to be really patient with you when you're hungry and moody, and somebody that can handle that and have a little grace is awesome. So I love that. She's been amazing.
And from what I could tell in your Instagram video, she was with you, you know, in the gym, and just kind of, that's awesome.
We did it together. She deserves just as much credit for that title as I do.
Yeah, definitely. Are we going to see her on stage at any point?
I don't know. She's shaking her head no. She she loves the wellness girls. She's training legs 3 days a week now, and I've been tossing around the idea, but she says no. We'll see if
her mind will change. Maybe, I don't know. Sometimes I think 2 bodybuilders in one household might be a lot.
Right. Oh gosh.
Cool, man. Basically, I wanted to ask kind of what your plans are for the future, what you're going to do moving forward from here. What's the strategy?
So me and my coach, really, I hope I don't have to wait 2 years for a pro debut. But we've already devised a plan. I mean, it's, you know, Monday we were back on diet, so excited, pushing kind of aggressively out of the bat as far as carbs go, and food, which I love.
Right. You're not sitting in that depleted state for too long.
Well, I mean, gosh, my body's responding so well. It's staying really tight, and I'm filling out. And
I saw that the photo you just posted from your leg workout. I was like, holy shit. Like,
thanks.
You look crazy.
So everything's just like, I'm very insulin sensitive, so everything's firing, everything feels great. I still got a little bit of water weight from the weekend and the flight and hardly sleeping, but like I had to have her help me turn the AC down because I'm literally like sitting here sweating. So I think the water
Well,
weight's
food.
starting to come off. But yeah, our plan is to back on like 15 to 20 pounds of tissue. And I think it's doable, especially based on how much I was able to put on in a 2.5 year period.
Yeah.
Even with COVID setting me back, I just thought about that today. I gained 30 pounds of stage weight even with a setback last year. So I think it's doable in a short period of time for me. However, we're being really mindful of what helped me win USAs.
Yeah.
Because I really want to bring like a Sean Roden physique, like a Keon Pearson physique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, one of the things that stood out, I believe, is my X frame, my shape, my balance. I know my arms need to grow. That's the one standout thing. That's the one knock everyone has about my physique. And I totally am aware of that. I've actually, believe it or not, brought them up a ton from what they used to be, even through prep. So that's my goal, is to add tissue just everywhere as well as improve my arms.
Yeah.
But we've got to keep the waist tight. So that's another thing
100%.
is Chris is also taking an approach of allowing me a little more leeway in my diet. Even though this past week I've just been eating jasmine rice and being totally happy with that.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't want me binging on any cheat meals. He doesn't want me pushing anything against my abdominal wall.
Right.
So that I
Full.
keep that same shape and that same size in my waist.
Yeah.
Because I really think having that kind of shape on the pro stage is being rewarded right now.
Right.
So if I can be like 245 conditioned like I was at USA's,
That'd be nuts.
and have the same proportions with my waist, I really think I could compete with these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Chris's programming, but I know he's very mindful of like digestion and keeping people healthy too. So, and I think those are two things that are very, very important as a bodybuilder grows, is to watch those things. Right. So
that's
you're in
what
good
people don't
hands.
understand about the size of the gut. It's about gut health. And
yeah. Oh, 100%.
Phil Heath, I think that's what fixed his gut or helped him with it. He was talking about addressing his gut health, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very common for bodybuilders to throw down a ton of things that don't digest super well, and you know, so it can definitely complicate things. So that's important. But I know, like I said, you're in good hands with someone like that who's very mindful of those things. That's exactly why I interviewed him in the past. So that sounds like a really solid plan, man. I mean, check back
out around the idea of Texas Pro because he's moving to Texas this week, actually.
Oh, really?
Me and my wife thought about it. We love Texas too. We haven't visited, but we love everything that they have to offer. Destination Dallas and all that stuff. So we're going to be visiting. But
there's a huge bodybuilding scene out there.
Yeah. So I mean, that, you know, if I could shoot for a show a year from now, that'd be awesome. It's just a matter of my rate of growth. So
yeah,
I'd hate to have to wait till 2022, but I've done it before. So if I have to wait, I'm going to compete when I'm ready, just like I did this last time. I waited till I was ready.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to go up there to just embarrass myself, get dead last. I want to go
and you want to represent yourself the best in what you believe you're capable of, right? That's another reason why I've held off competing, is because I feel like I want to be able to present the best version of myself and show people that I'm serious, right? And you have that to do for your open debut. So all right, well, one last thing before we head out, what would be, because you are, you know, fairly young, and I mean, I know like Cody Montgomery was one of the younger people to win, but you know, you're really young for a pro bodybuilder. I think we're getting a lot more younger people. I'm fairly young, and a lot of the people who come to me are younger. What would be like a message for a younger individual who is like, I want to be a professional? And maybe it's something we already touched on, but what would be something that you would want to relay to them?
Well, something I've been thinking about for the past few days since last weekend, and I can't get it out of my head, is as cliche as it sounds, is just never give up and never quit. So I've had so many reasons to quit, or maybe not reasons in my own head, but reasons other people would have if they were in my position, would probably have quit. And a lot of people tell me, why are you doing this? Why aren't you living a normal life? You shouldn't waste your time with this. Over the years, but especially 6 weeks ago. So I did my regional qualifier, and I did not win the overall 6 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got beat by this guy that actually, he's like 40 something. Now I hate to say this, but it was a pretty questionable call.
Yeah.
Now I was only my 90%. I was not 100% conditioned. And that was the plan, because I knew I had to take another 6 weeks into USA's. This was just our warm-up show. We just want to get qualified. But I came out of that show and I was like, just torn up, because I'd waited 2.5 years to compete. It's supposed to be a warm-up show. They said the guy beat me because of conditioning, but I beat him on literally everything else, to be honest. And beat me by 1 point. So but it was really hard to swallow. So I walk out of the venue, I'm talking to my wife, and I give her a hug, and I almost break down, man. And I was like, babe, I have no business at USA's. Like, I have absolutely no business there, because I can't beat this guy at this local level. I can't get an overall at the local level. Why am I going to one of the most prestigious shows you could possibly compete in?
Yeah.
So I've told everybody that story simply because I want people to just never give up, you know? And I could have said, I'm not going to do USA's, I'm dropping out. And I would never have known what I was capable of.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I was capable of sweeping the whole thing, but I had to change my mindset. I was there for like 30 minutes. 30 minutes, I was like, I got to pull out of this USA show. There's no way. But then I changed my mindset. I wouldn't let myself sit in that place. And because of that, I've had the most successful dream, or the biggest dream achieved that I could have imagined,
Yeah.
So for the young guys, just don't give up. Like, if people tell you you can't do something, prove them wrong. If a judge tells you something and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was better than that, go to the next level above that, prove that judge wrong.
Yeah.
If you've got people doubting that the sacrifice is worth it, go prove them wrong. So that's, I guess, my message to the young guys. And just love what you do. If you love the journey, if you love the process, just keep laying the bricks, and eventually you're going to have something awesome,
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I think that's a great segue to close out this podcast, man. I think a lot of people can take a lot away from that. And I agree that one of the most important things, I mean, that was a true test to see if you were really ready for this, right? You could have easily just went out and been like, all right, I'm gonna go eat a bunch of junk, this is it for me. And that I didn't know that the outcome of that, of believing in yourself and not listening to, your negative thoughts about the situation or anybody else.
It's all up here, man. It's bodybuilding is a mental battle. If you can beat the mind, you can accomplish a lot in the sport.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Jordan. Well, honestly, it was a really great conversation. I
really am thankful to be on.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. I just want to give you a quick moment to maybe shout out your social media and where can people find you? Anything, information about like coaching and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. So my Instagram now is IFBB_Jordan Hutchinson. And I was holding off for a long time taking on more clients because this prep was just so involved, and I didn't want to have anybody waiting around, or with prep brain and how it is, I knew I wasn't going to be quite as capable. So I just opened up my books. I'm getting the people that have been on my wait list first. Awesome. But DM me if you're interested. And then my email is Hutchinson, HUTCHINSON FIT, HutchinsonFit@gmail.com. You can email me and ask about my information, but I'm really excited to help people because that's really what I want to transition into.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm doing a lot more of that.
Right. Cool, man. I'll have all that in the show notes. I'll have that in the description as well on YouTube. Keep us posted. I kind of want to see how your off-season progress. Post that photo up too. I want to see the deep in the off-season
Oh yeah, it'll probably come Tuesday. Do one of the transformation Tuesday posts, but yeah, 278 full blown and fat to show day. So it's gonna be kind of crazy.
That'll be crazy. Cool, man. All right, you have a great day. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate it, man. Have a great night.
You too.